Hi everybody. Let's talk about trivial problems, or I should say trivial problems in inverted commas. Now, Stronger Now, I can't remember her full channel name, Stronger Now did a video where she mentioned how, and it's a fair point, how a lot of atheists, particularly in America, seem to make a lot of fuss about things like Christian symbols and paraphernalia being put into public places. A good example would be something like nativity scenes being put on public property in America, and how that's actually unconstitutional because everyone pays for the public property. It's being paid for by everyone. Not everyone is a Christian, therefore it's against the Constitution. Of course, it's not the biggest problem in the world. There are bigger problems than that. That's a fair point to make. But here's the thing. It's not so much the nativity scene or the cross that's been put up or the 10 Commandments that are on display or whatever it is in these public buildings. It's not so much that as much as it's the mentality behind it that is the problem. This is what I think some people overlook. I think they fail to understand. If you look at something that is a serious matter, a very serious matter, something like Christian fundamentalists opposing gay marriage, for example, or creationism, trying to get creationism taught in schools, those are serious issues. Because one obviously is a huge human rights issue, it's a gay rights issue, it's an LGBT rights issue. It affects people's human rights and has to be dealt with. If someone is opposing human rights of any kind, be it gay rights or any other kind of rights, then that person needs to be opposed, because of course human rights are important. Same with creationism, people trying to teach creationism in schools, trying to get it taught in schools. That is obviously detrimental to education. It's an educational issue. Education is important for obvious reasons. If you allow the education system to just be opened up to things that aren't peer-reviewed, that aren't properly academic, then the education system loses all its validity. It just becomes a free-for-all for a bunch of opinions and a bunch of ideas, which is not what the education system is supposed to be. So that's why those are probably more obviously more important problems. But the thing we have to remember is the mentality behind those things, the mentality behind trying to get creationism taught in schools, or trying to oppose gay marriage, etc. The mentality behind that is exactly the same mentality behind putting nativity scenes on public property, or displaying the 10 Commandments on public property, or putting other kind of Christian paraphernalia up on public property. Although not all those problems are as equally severe as each other, like I say, the latter of those not the biggest deal in the world. The mentality behind it is the problem, and that's why it's necessary to raise people's consciousness about these issues. The mentality basically is, I'm in the majority, therefore I can do what I like. I'm in the majority, these are the things I want to do, therefore I'm going to do them, and that's the default. That's the mentality behind it. The idea that the default position is how I want things. That's how things should be. I'm a Christian, therefore I can do what I like. And that's the mentality. And whether what that Christian likes is, something trivial like putting a nativity scene somewhere, or it's something very serious like opposing gay rights, or very serious like trying to pollute the education system with young earth creationism. Whatever it is, it's all rooted in the same mentality, and it's important to try and get people out of that mentality. Make people realise that they're entitled to their beliefs, but their beliefs are no more special than anyone else's. Their beliefs are not entitled to any special considerations or special leeway or special rights or anything like that. That's the point. I think that's what some people miss. And if you're an atheist who's about to give this the thumbs up, just before you do, I'm about to mention the F word here. This is the same reason why I get agitated, annoyed, and I despair at people like Thunderfoots referring to feminists having first world problems, what he calls first world problems. The reason that these things that feminists talk about a lot matter is exactly the same. The reason feminists talk about being catcalled in the street, or having people try it on with them while they're in lifts, or anything like that, things which might not seem like the biggest deal in the grand scheme of things, but the reason people still make a bit of a fuss about them, and why people object to them, and why people speak out about them, is exactly the same reason as why people like Thunderfoot complain that they aren't allowed to draw Prophet Muhammad, or why they... he talks about things that he's kicked up a fuss about In God We Trust, or whatever it is, being written on American money, or One Nation Under God, I can't remember, but things like that. It's exactly the same. It's the mentality behind it that is problematic. So catcalling someone in the street, not as bad as raping someone, obviously, but it stems from the same mentality. The idea that women just exist for the use of men, basically. They exist as objects for the amusement of men. And that, I think, is the point. I think this is a very neat parallel between those. There are a number of other areas, you know, a number of other examples of this you could mention outside of atheism or feminism. There's other things where people might seem to be making a fuss about something that seems trivial, but it isn't. It's not trivial. It's indicative of a problematic mentality, is the way I'd put it. There's a mentality certain people have that they need to be gotten out of. They need to understand that things they want, things they desire, are not, you know, are not. It doesn't entitle them. Wanting things or desiring things does not entitle you to have them. You know, wanting to do something does not automatically entitle you to do it. You do have to make sure that it's not going to cause problems for other people. Your rights are no more special than anyone else's rights. You know, if they were, they would be called privileges, and this is why the word privilege appears quite often in these sorts of arguments. So I hope that's been of interest. Let me know what you think. Goodbye.